Hey everybody, welcome to Toy Chats. It's your boy Dre, and it is Wednesday, so you know what that means. Pre-show, because this is an opportunity that I have actually been looking quite forward to. I don't get many opportunities like this, so when a chance comes by for me to interview and speak with and talk and just talk to a creator of a kick-ass comic book that really tugs at my heartstrings, I had to like reach out, and he was just extremely just awesome to want to reach out. So I'm going to introduce you to my guest today, Jay Francois.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're muted, I think. Let me see if it's me. Is it me? No. That happens sometimes with the audio. It gets a little weird like that. Hey, Tori,
Can you hear me now?
I hear you perfectly.
All right. I'm just going to use my laptop because my mic is weird with my computer.
Oh no, trust me, I understand that. So go ahead. I'm so sorry that you didn't
I
have
get it too. I have my own podcast with my best friend, so we get our own technical difficulties.
Cool.
So where was it? Yeah, my full name Jaromir J Francois. J is just short for Jaromir because sometimes it's easy for people to remember my full name. Yes, I don't even know where to start. Born and raised in New York City, Washington Heights.
I'm a native New Yorker. I moved to Charlotte, but I'm from the Bronx. So
nice. So I moved to the Bronx 2 years ago, 2020, during the pandemic, during lockdown rather.
Nice.
Yeah. So
where area of the Bronx are you in?
So two to three stops away from Yankee Stadium.
Oh, 161. I know that area. They've built that area up real nice.
Yeah. So I don't go there all the time because I'm still 2 years in the Bronx is not a long time. So I'm still going back to the Heights, or I just go to work. So I'm usually work and then home. But yeah, I live on 174th by the D train.
Nice.
Easy commute.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I have to ask because when I read your book, which I'm going to show right here.
Yes.
Here's how I found out about you.
Okay.
I read every week. I read comic books like nobody's business. And both my children, my daughter who is 12, gonna be 13, she's a comic book reader. My wife is an English teacher. Nice. And every time I put a book in her hand, she'll check it out. And I read to my almost 2-year-old. She loves being read to.
Okay.
This book jumped out at me because I grew up with a baby blanket that I still have.
Okay.
And when you did that anthropomorphosis of like the teddy bear into being his brother, and then there's no dialogue, which I think is phenomenal because it's a very risk take, because a lot of people like to read and it's very hard to interpret the art because it's very different how I perceive it versus what you had. But then you add a soundtrack to it, like
that was a last minute decision too. Like when I made the decision, it was like a little over halfway done, and I was like, I think I should put a soundtrack because no one is just gonna want to look at it's ultimately it's just a picture book, and I didn't want that just to be a picture book, even though it is a comic book. But yeah,
true. Yeah. But it's good. I think the soundtrack does it really well because for me, when I sat and showed the book to my daughter Rory, she was looking at the pictures and she's like trying to take everything in. But then she's looking at she was like looking around, listening to the music, and like you could see her trying to piece the story in her head. And I know for me, I'm very similar. Like I think in that sort of way, and I just love the relationship. I also love seeing characters of color because we don't see that many times often in comic books. More now we're seeing it because there's now a big push for representation.
100%.
And I think we need that. Because I'm, Puerto Rican, Nigerian, and Middle Eastern.
Oh wow!
And
you got it all.
Exactly
all of them.
I got to rep everything, and my kids are half white and everything else. So it's like I try to tell them, be who you want to be, but know where you come from.
Exactly.
And I felt that in your story. I felt like this. Is this something that comes from your childhood? Like that was, I guess, one of the questions I wanted to ask.
So yeah, so just to take it back, it's just a little bit here and there. I did have a white teddy bear, and it wasn't like. And it's funny. I got this cool shirt from Star Cadet, the guy I followed. But anyway, I had a white teddy bear when I was a kid. My sister had a regular old teddy bear. And I think that's the one thing that took for me, that I took from my childhood. But the idea of this story was from college. So I remember seeing a picture of a teddy bear like on top of a bed with like a wooden sword protecting the boy from this large looming monster. I was like, that's a dope story. It's just a simple image that someone drew. And it was like protecting kids since 19 whatever. I think that's when the first teddy bear came out. And I was like, that's a cool idea. So I had this idea since college, but then I just didn't know what to say with it. It's just been in my head for a long time. I wrote a comic book, a script a while back for another story, but I'm like, at the time I didn't have the funds. And then I was like, I'm gonna just shelve this. And then my best friend moved to Florida. Also, he's from the Bronx, Puerto Rican, and he moved to the Bronx to Florida. I was like, damn, and I felt like kind of sad about it. And then that's when the story started percolating in my head. I was like, all right, let me put this on the paper, and I did it. And then shout out to Todor, the artist. He did a very good job, and the colorist Sonia, both from Bulgaria. So they're really good. I forgot how I got in touch with. Well, I got in touch with Todor, but he introduced me to Sonia. And I was like, I need this to be done. So lockdown happened. So this is 2020. Lockdown happened, and he says, hey, I have time to do this book. You want to do it? I was like, yeah. So all this was out of pocket. I was just like, I just got to put on this is when I kind of went full time at my job. And then I was just like putting it towards it. And yeah, so part of it is just, the story has a little bit of my childhood, how I felt when my best friend moved. It's simple, but I think there's a lot of layers to it. And however, like, people interpret it. Some people say, hey, is this just a metaphor for life? And I'm like, yeah, it could be. I personally think it's real. Like, well, in that realm, I think it's real. But if you're just it's a one shot. A lot of people are expecting a sequel, like most things, but I just think it's something that I would have to write if I'm in at a certain point in my life.
I think that the culmination of the story, it has a very good crescendo. Like, I think as a one shot, it works really well. Mm-hmm. I've been an avid comic book fan since Lord knows how long. I mean, I'm going to be 44 this year, so I've been reading comics since I was a kid.
So you're young. You're young.
Exactly. And when I look at it and I'm like, well, what about this jumped out at me was I remember reading on a blog, the League of Geeks, and they do like comic books for the week.
Okay.
And your book got spotlighted like within I was looking through, because I always like email my local shop if there's books I'm looking for.
Okay.
And I was like, hey guys, like, get me this book. And the local store I've been going to for years. And he's like, damn, Dre, I ordered it, but we might have not been able to get it in. I was like, oh man. I come in and he's like, guess what got delivered? And I came home and like I jumped into it because I remember being a little kid, having that baby blanket as security and just being a little kid with that imagination of going on those adventures, and having that sort of, reality. Yeah. And I know that that's how it touched me. And I bragged about your book. And again, I don't.
Thank you.
I'm not a bullshit artist, dude. I'm one of those people I'm very blunt and very real. I loved it because I was like, guys, you got to read this book. I was like, first off, the soundtrack is totally interesting because it's something I've never thought of. Because in the 80s they did that, like where you get a book and then you'd have the companion audio.
Yeah, I remember. So growing up, so I'm 29, so I remember growing up when you had the audiobooks, which it had a little mini soundtrack, but it was reading over. So it was the classic audiobook of today. So I remember you get the book from the library in your school, and then it comes with a little baggie with the cassette. And I was like, oh, that's cool. How can I do that now? It's at the time 2020, just QR code. So I like I said, it was last minute getting that soundtrack from Lauren Brianna Ware. She's from Wisconsin. A friend introduced me to her, and I was like, look, I have like my artist, from Bulgaria, but I was like, I really want someone else to be attached to a person of color. And she's a Black woman from Wisconsin. She's a great composer. If one thing I tell my friends when I'm like, hey, check this person out, like whatever other artist, there's this guy who's a guitarist. I'm like, if you're looking for a specific sound, tell them what you want and see what they can do with it. So she does classical music, but I'm like, if she can do classical, I know she can do something else. And then I was like, these are the sounds I'm looking for. This is what I kind of hear. Can you put this together? And she did it. I honestly didn't have to direct her. And like, I'm the type of person that says, I give you vague things and I love to give the artist to run with it. Because look, I'm not a illustrator. I wish I was, but I feel like my strength is just coming with ideas and then collaborating with artists. And then I'm just like, hey, run with it and just surprise me. And then she did that. Some people, I forget what track, it's the longest track in the soundtrack. They're like, yeah, the page itself, I think it was 2 to 3 pages, it's too short, but the track is too long. And I'm like, yeah, we thought about it. We try to cut it down, but it's like, it doesn't work. I think it needs to stay there because it's just, you have to stay on those pages. And then what I did was just taking that feedback, I just made a video. I edited the entire thing together to fit in the 16:9 ratio of a phone. So when you're watching the video, it's holding your hand, so you know what sounds to listen to pinpoint what you're reading. So I just got to figure out how to like distribute that to people. I definitely will send it to you so you can take a look at it.
Oh, that'd be dope. I look forward to that.
And I added sound effects as well, like with the flames and stuff like that. I added all those things.
Oh, see, that's dope. I love this because I am currently undertaking a project with a friend of mine because this show we get creators of all types, YouTube creators. I've interviewed other comic book creators, and I've interviewed people that are like creators of toys and I would say independent artists and 3D designers. Okay. And one of my friends I had on the show, he and I just clicked really well, and I was like, dude, we had a business phone call, and it was the first time I've ever done anything like that. And I said, I want to design something. And I like you, I can't draw stick figures for crap. So I was like, but I can give you a kick-ass story, and you can help me navigate how we're going to design those characters. Dude, 2 hours into that phone call, we had fleshed out villains, the mascot, a design, and he's just working on other projects, but he's like, me and him are constantly in contact. And I'm like, dude, I cannot wait till like the end of the summer because we could hopefully put this like into like people's hands. And he's like, we're going to make it happen. And that's like my pet project.
I like that. And is it going to be like, it's funny, I feel like I'm interviewing. Is it going to be like a crowd? You're going to crowdfund it?
I'm going to try to see if we can crowdfund it. Okay. We're going to start doing. Yeah, I'll let you know. Trust me. This ain't gonna be the last time I'm gonna talk to you. But being that I see how you and I think, I already like, yes, I could see me talking and working with you too. So the idea is that we wanted to, for the show here, we wanted to create something very similar to what you did. Yeah. That has a life all its own. And because the nerd dungeon is actually myself and 3 of my other friends, so the 4 of us together have different personalities. Yeah. So this mascot would be the general mascot, like this alien anthropomorphized Okami style wolf. And he is going to have this ability to kind of morph into our different personalities. Okay. So like if I wanted to have somebody like do like say someone's like, oh, I love Dre's character, I want this guy. So he'd be wearing like a geeky anime t-shirt, he might have something like, something crazy on his face, like or whatever. Then my friend Bob, loves lucha libre, loves wrestling. He'd have a luchador mask, and then he would have like a luchador outfit. So we started thinking about that, and I said, well, let's be PC. We ought to have girls. So we created a girl character, and I said, I speak more than one language, so I was like, we need to have this not be, a character that's like very typical. Yeah. So we named the character in Russian. Okay. And we named the character in Nigerian. So the female character is named Wolf Ikoko. That's in a Nigerian dialect, and Volks is Russian for wolf.
Got it.
And then we created like evil versions of the characters, and it's such a fun process because as someone that can't draw, but when you could pick someone's brain and they're like, oh man, I got this idea, and he's like, I'm gonna sketch it out, we're gonna have it, we're gonna have stickers, you're gonna be at a show. And I'm like, wow, like I told my wife about it, and she knows my passion is doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
And I believe in leaving a legacy. Like you leaving this, you left a legacy.
Yeah.
You know, I love the fact that like because it resonates so well with me. I feel like it's a legacy that my daughter, she carries around a little Elmo.
Yeah.
It's a raggedy ass Elmo doll. But I can tell you now, when I showed her this book, and like 10 years from now, when she's old enough to like, I could put the book back in her hands and she could look at it, she'd be like, Daddy, this is me with Elmo, wasn't it? And I'd be like, yep, it was. And that's how I love that your story's that relatable. You've made it where I can slide in anybody. It doesn't have to be just the male protagonist. It's whatever I guess security we feel that we need as children to protect us. You know, and it's kind of like this like Yojimbo vibe, you know, I got from your book as well.
I love Toriyama. I've never heard that before, but okay.
Well, you gotta understand, dude. I'm Toshihiro Mifune. You know, I'm a big, you know, I love Kurosawa. I love I grew up, dude. I love Rashomon, you know, Throne of Blood. You know, I'm a huge fan of Kurosawa's films. And when I was reading this, I said, oh my God, this is like Yojimbo.
Yeah, like when in the scene, in the panels where he's surrounded by all these warriors of different timelines, I thought it has to be a samurai in there because so my dad is into so I'm Haitian. So my dad, you know, growing up in Haiti, you know, they have like old classic TV. He was into Westerns. You know, growing up, you never think you'd be like your parents. So I ended up like my parents. Well, like my dad really likes. I love Westerns, but I also love classic samurai. So, but obviously the two, they're kind of the two sides of the same coin in a sense from two different regions. And I was thinking, should I have a cowboy or should I have a samurai? I really like mess with like samurais. But now that I'm thinking about it, I was like, well, it would be dope just like if there was a cowboy there, like with guns, like a gun versus sword thing. But
that would have been dope.
That would have been really
like
cool.
To have him in the background, like gun, like even like Gunslinger Spawn, where the guy could have had like crazy looking armor, but still had like the guns, like a 6-shooter with the hat.
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
you just wrote another panel.
Hey, look. We could add, dude. That's how I think though, because I see the evolution of it, and I can draw those conclusions of where somebody's interested in that because what was like. I'm assuming that you collect comic books or you read comic books.
So I got into comic. I'm just gonna take it back. So I got into comic books when I was 12, 13. My cousin and my other childhood friend Robin, they put me on. We went to Midtown Comics, 40th Street, and that's like second home. And they put me on to Wolverine. They're like, "Who's your favorite X-Men?" And I was like, "Wolverine." I've always watched them since the animated series. And then as I started getting into it, I started collecting volumes of like certain books. But then it's when I got to college, and then DC rebooted the whole thing. They did the New 52. I collected each and every one. Well, certain of them, like Batman, Justice League, Aquaman, like the main stuff. I collected heavily during college, and then I slowed down because, personal opinion, I don't like the way DC and Marvel are operating when it comes to the books.
I agree with you on that.
It's just, to me, it's more advertising for their movies. So now I just stick to indie stuff. And then personally, I'm like, look, I want to be a person that writes for them. So I want to get to that point. So it's not that I don't care about comic books anymore. I'm more like, I need to consume less and make more and focus on that. But I still do collect. Like today I went to Midtown because I wanted to get, so I went to Midtown to get my book again. Because I went there the day it dropped. It sold out first day, which I was surprised, but good thing. But then I was like, I'll go to Forbidden Planet. I went and got it. I was like, it's Forbidden Planet. But I really wanted to get it from Midtown. And they had it. I got the last copy today. It was still there. So I was like, they were selling each week, which is pretty cool. And then yeah, like I still collect just indie stuff. Right now I'm collecting Obi-Wan because it's gonna be short. So I'd like to collect short contained stuff. And Batman by Jock, because that's also gonna be short. So yeah, I still collect comics here and there. I just stay like little.
I like seeing where your interests lie too, because I'm starting to dabble in the indies. You know, like I've collected heavily up through my life. Like I would like to say that from when I was maybe 14 all the way up until I was in college, and then when I got out of grad school and I moved to Virginia, I sold my collection off. I sold like 14,000 comic books.
Oh wow!
Made my money, and I was like, I bought a car, and I was like, I got an adult. Now I was like, I was so mad at myself because I got rid of all the books that I loved. Like I had the original Spawn run. I had Weiss Picario X-Men. I had the original Campbells and Lees. You know, that's neither here nor there. You know, I got those they're all in the ether. They're in a hand of another collector, hopefully graded and being appreciated.
Yes,
but
agreed.
I then got back into it with the New 52.
Okay.
Like when I saw that they were telling the story backwards, I thought that was interesting. Like, okay, Superman lost his powers, Batman's kind of off the grid, Wonder Woman ain't doing nothing. Like, what the hell happened to the Trinity? Like, that's what piqued my interest. So then I went back into it, and then I started collecting again, and it wasn't as heavy. I started picking up more like collected editions, graphic novels.
Yes.
And then I went back to recently I was like, well, a lot of these books don't grab me anymore. Like some of the stuff grabs me.
Yeah.
Like I'm a diehard Spider-Man fan. I love Miles.
Yeah.
I'll buy Miles Morales.
Yeah.
I'll buy, and like I'm gonna actually interview Mercado, the guy that's doing the cover for the 4th Miles Morales book.
Oh wow.
I spoke with him on Facebook, and I was like, dude, I love the cover. I'm digging that it's in Brooklyn, that you have the Rainbow Bridge is the Brooklyn Bridge. And really cool. I was like, yo, would you come on my show? And he's like, hell yeah, dude, I'll advertise. I'd love to come on. I was just, my mouth just felt
foaming.
I was like, wow. Like, and I love it because you guys are the best gateway drug imaginable. And I say that in a good way. As a teacher, as a teacher of middle school that used comic books in my lessons to tell a story.
Yeah.
And I used pop culture to tell a story because, like you said, Marvel was telling a lot of their political views and a lot of their movie views through their comics, which made it easy for me to translate that into the modern world for kids that were more into that sort of stuff. Same with anime and manga. You know, like just because the art style is a little different, it doesn't mean I can't teach you something. Exactly. And that's why I loved your book. And I'm glad that it's a one shot. I'm sad it's a one shot, but I'm glad that I get to hopefully hear that you might have other projects on the way.
Yes. So, I do
have. You have other projects?
I have a secret one that it's secret, but not so secret. It's like if you go through my like Instagram page, you can probably guess. But yeah, I'm not gonna talk too much about it because it's just gonna be
I like it,
and I'm just gonna do a limited physical release because it's just gonna be out of pocket as well. But my next one, do you follow Godhood Comics?
No, but I will be now.
Yes. So guy on Instagram by the name of Tyler, not Tyler the creator, Tyler the animator. I forget how he found me or I found him. He follows me back with both his pages, and he's planning on. Well, let me take it back. He has these 3 books called The Antagonist. There's 3 issues out right now. Really dope. I tell people, I'm like, look, cool. The Boys is cool and whatnot. I don't really push The Boys. It's cool. I'll be like, hey, Boys is cool. But I'm like, if you really want something different that's never been done, The Antagonist. It's basically about a Black family that are villains. And yeah, dude. And they're physical right now. So I'm like, you better just get them right now and before they just sell out. So basically, just to give you a premise of it. So the 2 characters, I'm forgetting their last name are Evil, Eval. So it's like kind of on the nose. But basically, I remember watching an interview that he was in. He said something like, you know, if you look at our reality, Black people are already seen as villains. He's like, you know what? Since we have superpowers, we'll be the villains since you already see us that way anyway. So I thought that hit home. I got chills when he said that. I was like, wow, like this villain is gonna just take all the heat. And you already see us, like, you know, the society sees Black people as villains anyway. So we're just gonna play that part. I need to reread it again because I read it very quickly because it was only 3 issues. He only had 3. I was like, oh, this is really good. And then I was done. And I was like, where's the rest? So he's building a thing. He's posted about how, like, in Hollywood right now, they're planning to talk about making a show. And I'm like, I can't wait to see that. He has another book which I want to read called Sharpshooter, which is about it's basically Hawkeye mixed with Daredevil. So it's a blind Hawkeye. So like I don't know much about it. I have to read it. But where I was going with, like, when he opens his submissions to submit to his company, I do my next project that is on my page called Napoleon from the Machine. It is unfortunately I wanted to get it made for Stan Lee to one day see or something like that. It is a thank you / love letter to Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, the greats. The main character Napoleon is kind of more of a homage to Jack Kirby. His ability is anything he draws comes to life. Wow. And if you remember in the classic Ninja Turtles, I'm a big Ninja Turtles fan. I'll get to that later. If you remember the Ninja Turtles, the character Kirby, when he meets Donatello in like the basement somewhere, when he drew with a pencil tied with a gem at the end of the pencil, the things came to life. Yeah. So that's kind of where I got the idea. And my best friend's name on Instagram is called Loose Leaf Hero. So I kind of like thought of those things. I was in a different place at the time because I was like depressed and whatever. And usually that's where like emotions kind of spew out into your pages or into your creativity. And I came up with this idea one night after seeing Spider-Man 2 when I was sad. And I remember something Aunt May said to Peter. Classic Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, not
not Tom Holland.
not Tom Holland. But Aunt May was like, you know, like not verbatim, but, you know, getting back up, you know, when you fall, you got to get back up on that horse. And that's one of the reasons why I named my character Napoleon, because he said something similar. And I remember Napoleon's famous picture, he's on a horse. So that's why he's named Napoleon. But the premise of that story is that, you know, 4 years prior to the main story, Napoleon's wife passed away, and he didn't know what to do. So he looked to drinking. He's just sad. He shuts off from the world. 4 years later, he's still like a hermit, doesn't care about anything. He does the littlest things. Like he just draws a main character, protect the neighborhood. That's like his like final thing, is to protect the neighborhood. So it takes place in Washington Heights in the beginning. And, then there's this creature in the night that keeps killing bad guys. So he's not a person that kills, but it's when he's drunk and he's blacks out, he's just bugging out, and this creature is just killing these evildoers, basically, thieves, rapists, whatever that's going on out in the city. When he wakes up, the monster disappears. And it's not something that I try to hide, because I remember I went to writing workshops and they're like, are you trying to hide this? I'm like, no, it's clear. Like, I'm not trying to hide anything. It's just a story. And I love to just tell the story. I'm not a good, I don't think I could, I'm sorry. I don't think I could write a detective story or a thriller, but I love changing the idea of the superhero. And this is kind of the rebirth of a superhero, because no one knows who he is, but they know his moniker, which is called Kami, which is Japanese for God, in the story. And if you go into my website, I have the first 6 pages there. He saved the city from a tsunami. And then they're like, oh, wow, this must be the work of God, or whatever. And then he's been doing these, miracles throughout the world, but people don't know who he is. I'm very excited to share that. I'm like a little halfway over, done with it. I just gotta get it together and submit it to Godhood Comics. Hopefully it gets in there and it can get into your hands. It's gonna be 6 issues, so that's gonna be the thing that people might love.
Oh no, dude! I think the fact that if it's 6 issues, a big run that's still going, like an ongoing, or if you did a collected edition, I think that fans of your work definitely will want that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I know for myself, I'm a big fan of either an ongoing book or something that's completed. So that way, if I have it all in my hands, I can read it in one shot.
Yes.
Because I'm a stay-at-home dad. So like I have limited time in my schedule to like be like, hey, my kid's not screaming right now. The other one's not needing me to help her with homework, and the wife doesn't need me to cook dinner. I can read a book. And that's why when I read yours, it was like I gave it to the wife. I was like, babe, check this out. And I always believe in sharing that positivity of something that draws on a feeling. And my wife and I both had worked, and she still works with we worked in a Title I school. So all our kids were minority. They were like 99.9% of them were free lunch, in poverty. So I was always a big, person about sharing these types of stories with them, because I believe that when you give a kid growing up, like we both grew up as little brown kids that had Spider-Man, Captain America, Batman, Superman.
Yeah.
It wasn't till we had like, and people argued with me. They're like, "Oh, well, you guys had Blade."
Yeah.
No, 1970s.
Yeah,
that's way ahead of my time. Different time period.
Yeah.
We didn't have, Luke Cage. We didn't have a superhero like Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Like Night Thrasher.
Yeah.
Like the modern Luke Cage. Or like the new Batman, that the Lucius Fox's son.
Yeah.
That's in that I Am Batman run, dude, is probably one of my favorites now. It's slow,
okay,
but it's good. Like I think it's up to issue 9.
I'll
check it out.
And that's the thing, like, not to go on tangent, but like, and that's the thing when it comes to, the climate nowadays. So like, I remember they made the announcement. They're like, hey, Batman's black. And I was like, Batman's not black. It's just a different person. And I can get into like the weeds of things, where like when it comes to now, when you're coming beyond the books, you got the companies pandering. And that's the thing I didn't like. Like, one of my favorite Marvel heroes, Captain America. I've always liked him since the games, before like Chris Evans was made. Like, I loved him way before he was cool.
Oh yeah,
right. And they say Captain America's black now. I was like, yeah, that's Falcon. Falcon has his own identity. Like, I'd rather just characters. If you're gonna make a character, brown, or what, different religion, or different sex, or whatever the person, make it original. The only thing I can give it some leeway is Green Lantern or Nova Corps, because that you can make so many of those. For example, and it kind of get in the weeks. I love Miles Morales. So then I sound hypocritical, but then I remember there was I believe he was bisexual or gay. They were like, yeah, we got a gay Captain America now. But I was like, why not just make a new gay character? And I believe DC did that with Midnighter. Is that his name? Midnighter?
I want to say they did it with several characters.
They did it with
recently,
but they were like original. So like, that's like, do some of that.
I agree. I can see that.
Yeah, like because then it was like, I remember, I'm trying to think of an original character as of in the last couple years. I can't. It doesn't.
That doesn't have the mantle of somebody else. That
exactly.
is tough, because
And I get it, because they can play with that, and then again it gets. And me and my friend, when we talk about it in our podcast, companies serve the almighty dollar. So it's like, yes, Captain America makes money, so let's just give Falcon. And I see it why they do it, but it's just like, I want Static Shock. I want Static Shock. I want a movie. Milestone Comics is back, and I think when the popularity of Static gets up there, a little more up there, we're gonna get that show / movie. We don't know.
We need that though. We really do. Static is freaking awesome.
Like, I would like to play Static myself. I just need to grow my hair out, and you can't see it on camera. I have grays, but I love the show growing up. And yeah. But I forget where I was going with this. But when it coming back to the character, like when I wrote My Brother Teddy, when I finished it, I was like, there were things I was worried about too. I have a white polar bear, and I was like, does this sound like whatever that term is? It's like, it's a white man or white person saving a black man. I was concerned about it, but then I was like, I don't think people are going to think about it. That's just me internally as a writer, like overthinking. And I was like, I had a white teddy bear. That doesn't mean anything. And I would have put a black teddy bear if I had a black teddy bear or a brown teddy bear. So there were a lot of things I was concerned about. But even though, not to spoil it for everyone listening, but the bear is the main character, but the two characters you see on the picture are the main characters. And I really liked it because it kind of, takes me back to even Toy Story, Andy with, Woody and Buzz.
I didn't even think of that either.
Yeah.
That's another good one.
That's where some of the inspiration came to too. What if like these guys came to life and were like anthropomorphized, and they were like they would have stopped Sid from bullying Andy or something like that. But taken into the nine, going into hell to save.
But see that's very Dante's Inferno too. Like
heavily
very Faust.
Yeah,
I love that.
I ripped it straight because I was like, I was very fascinated. I never read it in its entirety. I've only did close readings, but I was always fascinated by the nine realms. And like, in fictional stories, when they take the idea of the nine circles and do prisons, like in Winter Soldier, I forget the name of the prison. In One Piece, also a big One Piece fan. They do Impel Down. Like, I love that idea of just descending into quote unquote hell. And that's where every realm you see in My Brother Teddy it's a representation of a realm. And I was like, how can I can do a lot. Like if I ever decide to do a sequel, or like a closed thing, I can explore a realm, because that could be a story in itself. And a lot of people told me that. They say, hey, this could be a game. I'm like, yeah, like if I had a backing, sure. Like I would
I mean, dude, I would totally back it if that was a video game like God of War.
Oh,
like where I could play either Teddy,
yeah,
and then you could even make it where the character could be male or female, so that way you could, dude, that'd be dope as hell. Yeah. I totally would do it. And I'm gonna just address something that my wife is just was offered an opportunity to work with one of her mentors to write a book, because she's going for her, like, pretty much is like going for her third master's degree, which I just told her it's a PhD. I said, you're brilliant. I said, just stop being an overachiever, making me feel bad. But when she told me that they were working with her, that they asked her like, hey, I want you to write something about this. I think that's awesome that she overthinks it. She's like, oh, I don't know if I'm like, honey, you're so well read. You got like a library in our living room of books. Yeah. Some of these books behind me are not mine, they're hers. Okay. And I mean, I got toys all up there too, but
you just gotta make it fun.
Oh yeah, I have manga. Like there's a bookshelf in the corner that's all manga and like statues. Then I got another bookshelf over here that's got like some books that I used in the classroom, like Run, March, Mouse. I mean, because you could tell, like I said, like I'm that teacher. They love me. They were like, Mr. Saunders, you're the man. Nice. And I always used to love having collaborations with artists and creators that I could be like, hey, what can I do to bring you into my classroom to meet my kids? And again, I was always a big proponent of trying to find people of color, because it's not easy to find an artist that, like, because I looked at it the same way you looked at it, like, and I started overthinking, like, if a black kid sees a white artist, are they going to feel like there's that bond of like the struggle, of understanding what it's like to grow up that way?
Yeah.
And my kids always used to tell me, they would always think I was white, and until they heard me speak Spanish, and they're like, oh, Saunders is, because they hear Saunders, and that's a very Germanic black sounding name. So they were like, oh, wait a second, dude. Like, no. And I'm like, oh, no. Let me tell you something. And then I got and these kids are country kids, because down here in North Carolina, the school I taught at is in the middle of farmland. They try to act like they're from the hood. Yeah. I'm like, y'all don't know the hood. Come on now. Come on, guys. Like the hood, the hood is not a pasture. Yeah. The hood is the hood. Like Compton, parts of Brooklyn, parts of the Bronx that you like, Hunts Point. You don't go to Hunts Point by yourself at night. You just stay away from it. And I would always have those conversations with my kids to try to connect that reality to them. Be like, it doesn't matter who you see, male, female, whatever. If you identify with a character, run with it.
And
and that's me recently for me. Like for you, you were saying you even noticed it yourself that you did that, like coming up as a kid, you had those characters. So like if there is a mainstream character that you identify with, like who would you say you identify with?
So and I would say Captain America. And I've had people say, like, why not Black Panther? I was like, I'm not a rich king. Like, I'm like, I always liked Captain America because of his morals. Like, even before I was like, my parents raised me right. Like, I know what's wrong. I know what's right. I know the gray areas. But like, and it's biased too. In Civil War, I was always on Cap's side, but it was just like, I would not, like, in real life, if my best friend is being framed, right?
Team like, Cap representing.
If my best friend is being framed for something, I'm like, it's not his fault.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna choose his side. And
hell yeah.
Granted, like, I know Iron Man was, Cap's new best friend, but like, Iron Man got an ego, but we're not gonna get into that. But I side with Cap because I relate to him more because of his morality. He's also a poor person from originally Manhattan, but now what's retconned Brooklyn. T'Challa, he's a king. He's Prince King. I've never experienced that. The only thing, what's cool is that I can one day see myself as that. That's really cool. I just didn't grow up. He's always been a cool character. I would never diminish it. I just never related to him.
I agree with you.
And that was another thing too. Like growing up, like, every time I thought of stories, and that's something in more recent time, I would say the last 4, 5, 6 years, where when I would write stuff down, my characters, except for obviously I wrote a African tale, but when I wrote like modern time stuff, like the characters in my head were always white, and I think about it in the last couple of years, I felt guilty because I'm like, why am I writing these white characters? These aren't, like, I should see more of myself. My Napoleon initially was a white character, but then as I was getting him created, I was like, let's give him more of a tan. And then I started connecting with the character more because then I was like, so Napoleon from the Machine takes place in 2094, which was at the time, 94 was the age of Stan Lee. So I just had to represent. So it's in the future. So I kind of put myself in there where I have two characters, a superhero and a female superhero, and a male superhero, which should be me and my now wife. We like Napoleon kind of pretends that his grandparents were superheroes. He doesn't know anything about himself. He just knows he's Haitian and Dominican, and that's it, because he's an orphan. So then I was like, let's just give it like I kind of tie myself into it, and that's why he's that color he is. So when he draws things, they're either Hispanic or Black. So he's just representing his culture. So then, but like, as I was looking at my stories going forward, I was like, when I wrote My Brother Said, he was immediately Black. And I was happy that it, dawned on me that I was like, this is how I see myself. This is how I see the characters. Because a lot of kids go through that because, growing up, well, our age and I guess our age growing up, we only saw Spider-Man, we saw Batman, we saw Superman, and Superman will always be, even though he's an alien from a different planet, he's a blue-eyed white man, and I would never be that, but I don't want to, and you heard the announcement they wanted to make Superman a Black character. I was like, I don't want that. I want Henry Cavill because he's cool. I like the actor.
Same here.
And if you want to give me a Black movie give me Static Shock again.
Dude, or give me the alternate, the Earth 6 Superman, which is the Black Superman that was the president. I can go with that.
They should just cast Obama. Like that was where
I 100% agree with that.
Well, just cast Obama and just have him do it. Like that's why they did it. But yeah, I honestly, and I'm happy I felt that way because a lot of people have been through that. It's like when you drew these characters, even Tyler the animator as well. When he was a kid and he had his own like portfolio, all his characters were white, and he realized, growing up, that's all we saw. Star Wars, same thing, except the only person, Mace Windu, was the only Black character, growing up as well. So I'm happy that I'm going forward. Most of my characters will reflect with my mindset. and vice versa.
Are you world building in a sense? To have like with Napoleon being so far in the future, and I think My Brother Teddy can really fit in any time frame because it just transcends. The story transcends, and we've already touched on so many different ideas that it could represent being from all these different things. Actually, wait, I'm sorry. Smitty Rock, one of my friends, he said that how could we forget Lando?
Oh, that's true. I'm sorry.
We had Lando. Listen. We had Lando Calrissian.
We did.
That's true.
That is true.
But again, it's representation.
So, yeah.
It's like it's something that I contend with as a teacher, as a dad, and as just a Hispanic male myself. It's hard to delineate where a character should be like white or black or brown. And I'll tell you from example, like with Dungeons and Dragons, I'm a DM for Dungeons and Dragons.
Nice.
And for a long time, all my characters spoke with a British accent. They were the green eyes, white skin, until about maybe 5-6 years ago when I had a roommate who, and he's awesome. I'm still friends with him. My friend Nelson. My wife actually went to school with him, and he made a character that was a centaur that was Puerto Rican because Nelson's Puerto Rican, and he was like the guy had dreads, and he was like he's Taino. His name is of a Taino god. His tribe is herd, and I was like, all right, like I like that. I'm like, so why am I not doing this with my characters? Like, why are all my characters blue eyes and blonde hair or brown? Then I started changing up my whole concept. And it's such an interesting time I have role playing those characters and I guess sliding into it because, again, it's identifying with you take more into a character if you see yourself in it.
Exactly.
And I think that, and I see that in, like I told you, when I read your book, I feel that way. Like that little boy was me.
Yeah.
The bear was my blanket.
Yeah.
It's so tied to who I was growing up. And it's such a part of me. My wife still makes fun of me to this day. We've been together. We make 5 years this December 18th.
Nice. Congrats.
Thank you very much. And she makes fun of me. She's like, because the first time she came to my old house, she's like, I see your bed. I know you have pictures, like comic book stuff on the wall. But she's like, really? A baby blanket that you've had for years?
That's awesome, dude. I wish I still had mine.
Dude, it is the blanket that they brought me home from the hospital in. It's got holes in it.
No shame.
No shame.
What I would do is just if it got holes, just patch it up, pass it down. That's all you got.
Oh, it's going to my daughter. I already because she has her Elmo.
Okay.
And I was like, I want to give this to her, and I want. Eventually, my idea was to frame the blanket, like and just keep it in a frame, like kind of like a jersey, and because to me that has been an integral part of my life.
Yeah.
When we moved, when my parents got separated, when my mom died, and then my dad died 6 months later, and I got reconnected with my dad's side of the family. It was so different. Like that blanket was one of the few things I had that was a constant in my life.
Okay.
Through my ups and downs, it's been my tag team partner. So that's why
chills. You can't see it. I'm getting chills as you're saying this.
But do you see what I'm saying though? Like your story, bro, like I had to reach out to you. Like that was like I've never felt so drawn to something as that feeling of like I grew up with this.
Yeah,
I'm so happy how it was
that way and that was a concern too. As a writer, you get this like I forget the term. You feel like what's it called? Like a fake. I forget the term. Like you feel like you're a fake writer. The word is escaping me, but it's just like you're writing and it's like, this is not good. I'm a fake. I'm a fraud. I feel like a fraud.
Oh no!
It feels that way, but like just to hear it, it just validates the story because, and you know what it is? I stare at it because mind you, it took me like a year and change for this to put it together. So I'm staring at all these pages and I'm like, this is not good. This is not good. No one's gonna want this. And then I remember I went to Brooklyn, went to a cool comic shop by the way called Vinyl Fantasy. So they sell
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they sell music, records, and comics. So I went in. the guy told me, he was like, yo, like I read this and like I teared up, and I was like, oh snap, like cried. And one of my manager said he left it on the counter at home, and his wife just picked it up and read it, spoiled it for him, and then was crying. And I was like, oh damn, in 25 pages I did that. Like but it validates it, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I really do.
You made not only a fan, you made a friend, because like I said, a long time ago, earlier this year, I had to come to the conclusion of doing this show.
Yes.
And I had been at a place in YouTube. This would be my 5th year of doing YouTube. And I was at a place where I was just like, I was just doing content for doing content. Even though my friends were with me, I was not enjoying it 110%.
Okay.
And I said, guys, I want to interview YouTubers. I want to interview content creators. I want to interview artists, people that like I love. I'm going to reach out to them. Mm-hmm. And if they say no, my mom used to say it to me. My dad did too. What's the worst someone's going to tell you? No.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, screw it. I'm going to take a shot. And if I was like, if Jay tells me, nah, Dre, I'm not interested, you know, but the fact that you and I were so, I love that. My wife just walked in. The fact that like you were just like, yeah, interested, and we started chat and we started talking, and then I just felt like this excitement. I was like, oh my god,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
When he gets on the show, I
gotta tell him. Yeah, because like I remember when I messaged you, I was like, I can't do it. You were like, why? I was like, no, I still want to do it. It's just I work. I have a dumb schedule.
No, it's okay, man.
I'm happy that I was able to do this. And yeah, I when I connect with, like, if you see like my page and I have different artists doing fan art for me, I asked them like, hey, do you want to just follow me back? Because I like connecting and collaborating, because I'm like, maybe I want to work with you in the future. I really dig this style. And that's the thing. So one of my I would say my oldest Instagram friend, I've never met him in person. His name is Brian D. Covington. He has a book called Between Magic and Dreams, talking about fantasy and sci-fi, all black characters. Great.
Ooh, I gotta check that out.
Check it out. He always says, like, you know, the whole point of creating these things is, yes, creating and sharing with them, but then when you're going on this, you know, journey and you're meeting these friends, I know you're familiar with One Piece. You're meeting these friends, you got to lift them up. Like I can go right now and be like, hey, how do you get your posters done? He's like, yeah, don't do staples. Find a local shop. Like, he'll give me advice. And I'm like, thanks for that, man. Like, I really needed that, because I honestly didn't want to do staples, but I wanted to figure out how you did it. And he looked out for me. Another one, I haven't spoken to him. I've never spoken to him, but you've heard of Black Sands Entertainment.
Yes.
Yeah. So you saw they got the grant from like Shark Tank. And so Brian D. Covington has his book on Black Sands. So his book is in there. So I remember I was like, hey, can you ask him, how can I get my book in there? And because I'm like, and on the website, when you try to submit it, it's something like, if you're submitting, you have to be a person of color. And I didn't understand it, because I was just like, okay, I'm a person of color, but what if I'm working with like other people that are not of color? And then he got back to me. Brian got back to me. He's like, hey, Manuel said if you're going to do it, as long as you're the leader. And I was like, oh, okay, I wrote this. This is my thing. I can do it. So now that clarifies. So like I had that connection. So I think that's cool. So like if I'm somewhere and then you need help, I can be like, hey, like, I think that story you were telling me, it sounds like you should try it. Like, I can just bring you on, you know? Like, I think that's really cool. And and like, that's another thing. When you message people on Instagram and you're not friends, it doesn't make it primary. I get that little circle. Everyone gets it. And that's the thing. And that bothers me, because everyone gets that circle. And I saw that circle and I went to it and I saw you and I was like, okay, this is genuine. This is not a robot. I'm going to talk to this person. So I'm happy that I clicked that, because, and that's the thing. I like clicking that. I like to say like, okay, this is not a bot. I'm going to talk to this person.
That's exactly how I am. I'm 100% that way. Like, I believe in, if you're not a bot and you're legitimate, like, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was like, I'm going to take a shot. I was like, it already in my head, I'm like, man, he's already liking some of my ideas. Dude, I'll collaborate with you anytime you want. Like
Bro.
I'm willing to take on a new project because, like I said, I'm trying to go into something that has been a passion of mine a long time, which has been comics and just being a creator. But since I'm not an artist, I've always loved the stories, and I've always been able to tell a good story.
Yeah.
And I would love to have somebody just like pick my brain and work with. So if you ever are
I
looking,
believe in the collective mind. So it's like, you know, you're shooting at a wall inside together, and then you're just building. They just expand, and that's how things work. And like me and my friend in our podcast, also I'm gonna just name drop it. It's called The Average Jays. If anyone wants to check it out.
Ooh, The Average Jays. Where can we get it at? Where can we find it?
It's on my page. So I didn't even give my tag. So my IG tag is sky_surfer117. In the link in the bio, right now it's currently tied to my comic book, but I'm gonna put back my link tree. You'll find the average J's there. So yeah, me and my friend talk about it. Like one of our first episodes, we talked about what we loved, what we want to do with our creativity. And honestly, and you know, one thing I love about Oda, the writer for One Piece, we think alike. I'd never met the man, but our main goal is peace. Even if I die, and I hope my brother, like if I die right now, I'm happy my brother Teddy's out there and like legitimately, because it's last year that I self-published it, and this year it got dropped like by a publisher. And I want people to read it, dissect it, teach it in college courses someday, find new things
that my wife will do it.
That'd be dope.
I could write a lesson plan with you. Like, bro, when I looked at that book, I was like, I could bring this into a social studies classroom, an English language arts classroom. I could bring this into an art classroom and dissect this book and be able to like put it together, because the teacher brain in my head doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can totally see where I could put lessons about this and have the kids really analyze and think and get them motivated.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, like, you definitely were, and I'm gonna say are because we're talking now.
Yeah.
Somebody I want to work with in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I love meeting more people and just no matter what it is, coming with new ideas. Sometimes, and I'm very bad at this, I come up with a great idea, especially when I need a like dream journal, because I have Oscar-winning dreams that I'm forgetting, and I'm like, oh, this would be dope, and I wake up and I'm like, I'm gonna remember it. I don't. I need to have a dream journal. Sounds weird, but yeah, I gotta do it. Yeah, man. Like thinking back, like I would flip through. Like I went to Midtown today, flipping through My Brother Teddy, and I'm looking. I can't believe it's like real. Like I still think it's surreal. Like it's just there. Like I look at it. There are things I did on purpose. Like just like what was it? I'm thinking of a specific scene. Well, it doesn't spoil anything. But there's that one black page where it says reclaim. The theme of this entire thing is about reclaiming, no matter what it is. You know, reclaim your identity, reclaim what's yours. If you lost it, like get it back.
And that could be just a metaphysical thing too. Like it could be like a fear of loss of something, or a challenge to overcome. I feel like this book represents that very well.
Yes, it does. And that, as I was writing it, like initially it stemmed from like my best friend moving, but it became something more. And yeah, and I wish I could say more about it. It's just like there's so many things I can say about it, but right now it's just ineffable. I have to like sit down, I read it again, or experience it again rather. And then it's one of those things. So speaking of, you said it earlier, like it could have been done wrong because it's not an original idea. It just doesn't happen often. I first experienced my first non-dialogue book was Batman and Robin, the New 52, after Damian Wayne dies. Sorry for the spoilers.
I knew that.
no, anyone listening. So I'm just like,
that's true. That's true. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So when he when he was going, I think it was called Batman and Robin Requiem, and he's going through like he's meeting all his other sidekicks, and then I think one of them, he's just going through his normal night raids and stuff, and all I can hear, I was like, this is missing music. And that's where I got the idea. Like thinking back on it, I was like, this is. I couldn't imagine listening to the animated series theme or the Arkham series theme, because whenever I read a comic book with Batman in it, immediately Kevin Conroy, and I know people have their best. Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill are Joker and Batman, and I say Mark Hamill because his name spells Arkham. He is the Joker. So go look it up. It's real. I'm not lying to you people. So yeah, I hear Kevin Conroy. I hear I forget the actor's name who played Alfred in the animated series, but I hear his voice.
Tara Strong was, and then Tara Strong's Harley.
Yes, I always hear like the Mr. J. Like I hear all those. I hear Mark Hamill's the Harley. Like I should start doing voice acting, but I'm not that great.
Oh, dude, I have a friend at New York that she does that. Her husband, she went to college. I worked with her, and she decided to do that, and now that's her full-time job. They built a studio in their apartment, and one room is dedicated to just her doing voiceovers. And now she's doing like audiobooks for Audible. She just did 2, like, I want to say projects, but she didn't say what they were, for 2 non-disclosed animes that she's working on. And I was like, dude, like if that's the path you walk, by all means walk that path.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. It's a lot of people told me some stuff similar, like even specifically when it comes to writing, like with our lives right now, working, and artists in general that are working, I haven't written anything new in a while. I'm right now focusing on what I've written. I want to share this. So I told you I'm a big Ninja Turtles fan, like big Ninja Turtles fan. Like, have you ever watched or know about the 2012 Nickelodeon TMNT?
Yes.
Have you ever seen any of it? Or
I've watched a couple episodes here and there.
So that's my favorite one out of all the cartoons. Like 80s is the classic one. You got the movies. The 2003 one is the one I grew up with, but it wasn't as like, great. But this one, what I like about the 2012 one is that it connects all the universes. Whatever book came out, that's canon in its own universe. Like there's an episode where they go through parallel universe. Like the characters from the 2012 one went to the 80s one, the 80s universe. So it's a real thing. So I was like, okay, so that's my thing. That was the Ninja Turtles that I hear in my head. So I'm like, one of the classes I took in college, my professor gave me a good feedback. She was like, you really can hear voices when you're writing your dialogue. Like in in my script writing class, I wrote a dialogue for a Southern character. I don't know where from the South, but it was a Southern character. And when it comes to Ninja Turtles, I watched that show religiously. I'm like on my 3rd run through right now, and I hear Leonardo, I hear Michelangelo, I hear Donatello and Raphael, even Master Splinter. And I wrote 6 issues of Ninja Turtles, and I can't do anything with it because it's not my property, but it's sitting in my digital hard drive. One day, if I ever get into Nickelodeon or IDW, I want to be like, hey, I got this for you guys. And what sucks is that I wanted to tell a story after they're teenagers because they've always been Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And Kevin Eastman writes The Last Ronin. And I was like, oh, I wrote it first. But mine is still unique and different. No one knows the story. But what I did was, so the artist for My Brother Teddy, so I found them on either Instagram or Tumblr. I forget how I got a hold of him. And the first thing I had him do was a birthday present to myself was have him draw Ninja Turtles of each character. I had so the idea was, what if each character lost their brother or their brothers? So the first issue would have been Leonardo, and I have this picture. I'll send it to you after we're done. Leonardo has like his sword, and he's holding all their bands. So it coincides. So, and the last one, which I thought was one of my favorites, the drawing, I gave it to Toto. I give him my vague description of Donatello. He comes back and gives me a Donatello with Converse with like the ninja, like the thing cut out. And I was like, I didn't think of that. I was like, dude, I was like, you got the cutout soul. I was like, what? And then the original part of my story. So that's 6 issues as well. The last issue is Master Splinter, where he loses everyone, including Casey and April.
Wow.
And I do pay homage in reverse, where Master Splinter is blind, so kind of a homage back to Daredevil. And I create 3 original characters that's supposed to take the place of the Turtles. So they're humans, and they're, you know, one of them is related to Bishop, who's like part of the secret agents. One of them is related to Kirby, Jack Kirby, which is dope. He's like, he lives in a mansion. And then just a regular kid. And their themes is that they play music, so they're really good at playing music. But that's when they encounter Master Splinter. They're like, whoa, that was a large rodent. And, you know, it's funny because large rodents in New York City is a thing, so they're probably not.
Oh, it is.
They're not fazed by that. But yeah, so that story, like, I want people to see it and read it. And one of these days, if I'm ever in the business, that's what I want to present. I've been like painstakingly trying to tag Eastman every time so he can look back. If I go back, he has not read my message to. I have like a paragraph. I'm like, hey man, I have a story. I don't want anything. Just put my name on it. Tell the story. But yeah, that was like one of the first things I wrote. And what I tell people is like, hey, how do you write? I was like, it's like what teachers used to tell me: write the BS until it becomes real, and then go back. And that's the thing. You just got to keep writing. And one of the best advice I've been told was I met the editor of DC Black Label. He was in a Q&A. What's his name? Not Brian Azzarello. I want to say whoever wrote Batman Damned. Who wrote that? Was it Brian?
Oh no,
it wasn't Frank. No,
because I thought it was Joe Hill that was but he's an artist and writer.
No, that doesn't sound, because the artist was Lee Bermejo.
Yeah, it might have been Azzarello.
Yeah, he was supposed to be there, but he wasn't there. So then the editor showed up, and then I remember approaching him. And I was like, not gonna be selfish, but like, hey, give me a job. I was like, hey, like, how can I get into this? There's no direct line into getting to, you know, they're usually journalists and stuff like that. He gave me advice. He's like, read Stephen King's On Writing, and he says, keep reading, keep writing. And I read that book, and it's great. One of the best things I got from that book is like, when you have an idea and it still sticks with you, there's something there. An idea is like if you find a fossil, you keep chipping away at it and you get this dinosaur, and that's your story.
Very true.
So there are ideas that still sit in my head. I'm like, if it's still knocking in your head, like, put it down before you forget it or don't do anything with it. Just hit the books. And it's hard to write because it's like the discipline of it. Because I wouldn't call myself a professional writer where you're writing pages like Stephen King every day. He's pumping out books every other year. But yeah, like, it's just one of those things. Like, if you have ideas, just put it down and run with it.
I'm excited because now you got me. This again solidifies in me the desire to do what I was talking with my friend Serge about, which, like I said, after that business call, it got me the creative juices wanting to flow.
Yeah.
Like, this is something that, like, I really think I need to put the
pen to paper.
Put the pen to paper and start doing shit. And it was like, the thing that sucks is it's like I didn't, like you said, it's networking to find people that are like-minded, that are into the industry like myself, that know what they like and they know what is out there.
Yeah.
But it wants to do something.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? That's when reason I reached out to you was, I feel like you're, from what I could tell, and I love the picture of you and your wife that you guys have on there. I think it's super cute.
Yeah.
It's like you see pictures of my daughter and myself and my wife and myself and my kids and myself on Instagram, and that's who I do this for. It's like, I believe in leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
And this comes full circle to what I was telling you before. This book is your legacy, and I would love to have something similar that my kids could turn around and look at and say, that's my daddy's legacy.
Yes.
Like, look what he did. And if my book, and like I always said with teaching, if I can reach one kid, and in 15 years of teaching, I've reached more than one kid. I know that for facts. I'm friends with several of them. Several of them have gotten married, moved on, had kids of their own. But I always believe if I could touch one kid's heart, get their brain thinking about something different, then I did what I was supposed to do. All those years in college, all that time I spent putzing around, not doing what I was supposed to do, to get to becoming the teacher, to be that influence on another person. That's not my blood.
Yeah.
I did right.
That's my goal too. Like, I want to be able to, like, influence people differently. I can talk forever about stuff, and picking stuff out, I think and I said most of the stuff I said on my podcast in my first episode. It's just like I just want to I just want everyone to be good, with all the things that is going on with the world. I think that one of the best things about creating stuff is just the people collaborating. There's nothing evil about it. It kind of reminds. Were you ever into Full Metal Alchemist?
Hell yeah, Alphonse Alaric, baby.
You saw the movie, so for the
yes.
So one of the lines I remember that stuck with me, and it's not verbatim, but it was something about how science creates weapons of mass destruction, and science creates movies, and science does these things, and it does create and destroy, which is the thing of alchemy. You can create and destroy, and I thought that was really great. And I'm like, if we can put more creativity out there, be a part of that, that's something that we can change the scales when it comes to the bad things in the world. And
and I think you said it with also the people that have influenced you, that you've been working with, that are trying to take and change the world, and put it in a more positive light. Granted, we're not trying to do what a lot of people are mad at, and I can go on for hours with this stuff, because I know that I've read a bunch of stuff, I've seen a bunch of stuff where there's a lot of hate towards Star Wars and Disney and Marvel and DC, because they feel like they got away from what people loved about comic books, not being fantasy and being very political. And I'm like, really? So there's a guy in face paint running around killing people with acid from a flower, and a guy that's named Deathstroke, and I'm like, that's not real, folks. I mean, that's, to me, I'm like, if you see the politics within it, that's something that's been around since the dawn of time. As a historian, that's what people use. The Japanese did it with manga during World War II. We've done it as far back as political comics during the 17 and 1800s. So this is nothing new. Art is that form that tells a story of what's going on. The winners or the losers use the art. Graffiti artists do it. Comic book artists do it. Painters and writers and everybody does it. It's just a matter of how you want to dictate the story. And like I said, I think that this book by far needs to be in the hands of more people. I would love to see it in the classroom as a teacher. I would love to see this book, and I'm gonna talk to my wife about it, trying to put it into her curriculum where it fits in with her curriculum. And I would love to write with you a lesson for an English language arts, and we can put that in there and say hey, because I've presented at teachers conventions here in North Carolina.
Oh, that's dope.
And my wife has done it too, but I've done it a few more times, and I've done it where I've gone out and spoken and told people, this is why you should use comics in the classroom, and why you should use pop culture, not just because of the fact that it appeals to the kids. It's there for us to use. When I was growing up, they used movies and media and the news and newspapers, magazines to tell a story. We used to sit around campfires and tell stories of our ancestors. That's nothing new. It's just knowing how to change the media. And if you can use something that will help affect the kid to get them to be interested and motivated, by all means, that's what we're here for.
100%. I wish I would take a class on One Piece right now and just discuss. It has everything. It discusses everything, from race to poverty to famine. It talks about everything, corruption. And Scott Snyder is I think he's an adjunct professor. But he's a professor somewhere, I believe in Massachusetts. He teaches and not just about writing. There are classes out there about superheroes where you get into the nitty-gritty of it, because understand why these characters behave this way and how it reflects the real world. It's not about the punch fighting, because that could be cool, but at that point, that's not, you're not turning the gears in your brain at that point.
What was the motivation behind Punisher becoming the Punisher? What was the motivation behind Moon Knight becoming Moon Knight?
Exactly.
You have to understand, and even what was the motivation behind Dr. Doom becoming Dr. Doom? Because good and evil have that.
He has it. There's a lot of nuances with Dr. Doom, And like that's just we can go into a whole class session right now about it. Like there's a lot with Doctor Doom, and that's why he's such a, I guess, a fan favorite. I don't want to say a lovable character, but a fan favorite.
Oh yeah, because he's become a good guy. I mean, like pretty much he's the anti-hero.
Yeah, Magneto too. So it's like hard.
Big time, especially during Krakoa, the Krakoa run. Like he really. If you're reading the new X-Men, they basically did a whole they revamped they retconned it where like basically mutants now have an alternate reality they can go into called Krakoa.
That's new.
And it's like it's its own country where only mutants are allowed to go, and they have a representation of the UN.
Wow.
And they police mutants. So like mutants police other mutants. Wow. And they've kind of like adapted it and made it a whole bigger thing. Like where Storm is now on Mars, and they call it like X-Men Red, and that's like her and Magneto and a team.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, dude, there's a lot. It's really good. I'm not into the X-Men as much, but like I like to know what's out there just in case I get interested. And they're doing some very cool things with the heroes and the villains in those storylines to get you kind of like motivated to be like, oh, okay, I can see this. Like Krakoa is a thing, and Krakoa as it breathes its own life. There's like they're not talking about Westchester County anymore. There's no more like there's none of this crap. It is all about a self-contained area, and then they're talking about the effect of mutants in the world as a whole. Then they had the current Devil's Reign, where Kingpin was the mayor of New York against Luke Cage, and they made vigilantes outlawed. So like Captain America, Miles Morales, Peter Parker, they're all in New York City, trying to fight against Kingpin's Thunderbolts. Like the Thunderbolts become a thing, so the villains are now becoming good guys, policing the heroes. And then you have heroes that have turned on the heroes. It was awesome.
That sounds really good, and and that's the thing. Like I said, there's some books that out there that are not, and the word I like to use is not genuine. They're just doing it just to do it and to make money. But something like that says a lot in itself, because I immediately thought of police officers. Like they're police officers policing people that are using their powers, wrongly. And it's like that's basically that. But there are people that are not gonna what my professor used to say, my journalism professor used to say, go where the silence is. You would never, or reading between the lines. They just read it and it's all punch fighting. And I get that from a YouTuber. He says punch fighting, but it's just that. And you're not getting what the book is trying to say. And that's the thing. Everything I write, it has to say something. So like I have a kind of tug of war for a possible sequel for My Brother Teddy, but I would have to be a different point in my life to make it. And I can tell you if I have a kid, I'd probably, depending on my feelings, I'll probably write.
That's good. And as a dad, trust me, it resonates so well.
Yeah.
I'm a girl dad and a boy dad. I have a son and 2 daughters. So trust me, it resonates. As a parent, the book resonates really, really well.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at right now. So like people are like, yeah, like it's dope by itself, but like I would want more. I'm like, yeah, I think I could do more, but I'm like, I'll sit there and wait, see how I feel. Even Napoleon, like it's 6 issues, but there's a character that I want. She's the heart of the story. She's a young girl. The way it ends, I can kind of bring it back, like the idea of like the God from the Machine complex, and bring that character back somehow. Hope that is
like the Ghost in the Shell.
To a certain degree. Because
we all know, because if you watch the original Mamoru Oshii, the original movie, which I loved. I mean, I grew up with that on VHS. That was like one of my first adult video purchases was that and Ninja Scroll. And I loved Ghost in the Shell because I read the Dark Horse comics. I'm that old. I read the original Dark Horse comics, and I loved the art style of Masamune Shirow. Mm-hmm. I collected his art books. I got to see him many years ago at Anime Expo in California. I mean, he was like a huge influence on like what I would call the cyberpunk Like when I played like Shadowrun, which is like a cyberpunk game style.
Yeah.
To me, that was like that world existed. Like where you jack into the machine and like there's people with cybernetics, but there's also like orcs and elves and dragons and craziness. But like it was very much akin to like Blade Runner and Dominion Tank Police and you know, I can go down the list of the classic anime.
Now, one of the things I love about cyberpunk coming from the 80s, it was very eerie, but in a good way. It kind of puts you, the way I describe it to myself, because I still don't know what the word is, but it's putting yourself in that place. Like when I watch Blade Runner, I feel like I'm there.
Oh yeah, you're Decker. You feel like Decker.
But the thing is, I don't want to be there because it's scary. When I think of, have you ever seen The Road? It's not super crazy. Yeah. So I wanted to see the movie, and then someone was like, no, read the book first. I love that the book was the same as the movie. But like I read it, watched it, I was like, I don't want to be here. If I don't want to be somewhere and it's eerie and it's like, oh, this is really good. It's a really good story. So like Blade Runner, same thing. Akira, like I don't want to be there.
You don't want to be in Tokyo when that shit's
cool to look at. I just look at it, I'm like, I don't want to be here. This is scary.
But even Vampire Hunter D, think about that, or Fist of the North Star.
Yeah,
those worlds are so cool. But would you want to be walking around?
Yeah, it's just so cool. Everything's just the design. It's just so cool. It's so cool. So
hell, I wouldn't want to be in JoJo's, and I love JoJo's, but I do not want to walk around with a stand that's going to talk to me. That's multiple. That's MPS, dude. I'm gonna be walking around with me yelling at something that's nobody else gonna see, and then I gotta fight somebody, and then it's a vampire.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, man. Yeah, there's so many things I could say right now.
Wow. Listen, how about this? How about I get you back on the show?
Yeah, I would want you on my show.
Okay, so we're gonna make that happen.
Yes.
I'm actually gonna give you my personal contact number after all this, because I feel like I definitely want to work with you on some other things outside of this, because I see a like-mindedness, and I want to definitely keep. Like I said, I'm on this creative kick, and I'm gonna ride the wave.
Yes.
So Jay, I want to ask you, like I always ask all my guests, where I know I found you. But where can the people that tune in 2 weeks from now come and find you?
So I like to tell people, Instagram is my HQ, my hub. It's so yeah, again, it's Sky_Surfer 117. If you type my name, if you can see here, you can type my name, Jeremy J. Francois, on Facebook. Twitter is the same tag, because it's all cohesive. So if you look me up anywhere, it's Sky_Surfer 117. Nice. So those are my numbers.
And we got to check out his podcast, folks, which eventually I will be on, called The Average Jays.
Yes.
And that's also done through his website. And I think you guys need to check it out. And if you can, ask your local shops. If you don't live in New York, or if you live in a city that has a small local shop, go to.
I just look so good. Like, that's not even real to me right now.
Bro, I already told you got to sign my book. I want to sign it and slab it. But you're gonna go to Source Point Press if you can. You can go here, and that's where my comic book store ordered it from. They ordered it from there in Diamond. But if your store doesn't have that, go on the web, get yourself a copy of this book. Go into the first page, and it has the QR code right here, folks. I'm gonna show you. Go hit that QR code and read it. And when Jay drops that whole thing, and I get to review it, I'll put it out here with him, and you guys will hear us discuss the good of what's going to be actually reading the story, listening to the music, and having it flow with sound effects. So definitely check that all out. All right, folks, I had an amazing time. Jay, thank you so much. I look forward to talking with you more. No, dude, this has been I have been such like riding this great wave of just getting good, amazing guests that are inspirational and just like-minded. And it's very good to find these types of people, especially like you said, in this time where we're kind of all disjointed and separated, but we have these great mediums as a way to keep in touch with each other.
Yes.
Folks, go on.
It's just so good to have, technology like this. Like, I feel like I'm a very old-fashioned person, but I love the future. So
that's how I am.
Yeah.
Trust me, be a girl dad. You become old-fashioned, right? My wife's looking at me funny. But yes, I'm going to say thank you again, Jay. He and I will be in touch again. Look him up on Instagram, folks. Check him out. I will see you all later. As always, my friends, stay geeky, y'all. Peace. And we gotta end this when I click it, if it clicks, because it always